Hello, my friends! This is Wake Angel 2001, and this is kind of a little bit of a follow-up to the video that I made last time, where I talked about the Infinite and Cream figures. Some of my commenters got me thinking about what's really left to do for the Jakks Pacific Sonic the Hedgehog line. Now, for this purposes, we're not going to count spin-off material, so we're not going to talk about Sonic Boom or the Sonic Prime, no IDW, nothing like that. Besides, from what I understand, Jakks Pacific is going to be making a separate toy line for the Sonic Prime cartoon, so that's a whole other kettle of fish on its own. And when I'm talking about what characters we can make, I'm not going to count every single possible background element. So, it's not like every single Badnik is going to be listed. So, just remember, any Badnik can be made. They're probably going to be made in the 2.5-inch line unless they're canonically huge, like the Egg Robo, which got to be a 4-inch figure. But, we're gonna actually see if we can break down what's really left. What will be the major end game of this series of figures. So, taking a quick look at what's already been done, we can see this. I got this picture from 4chan a little bit ago, and I'm fairly certain that it's a complete listing of every figure that Jakks Pacific has made or has announced and will be coming out soon. So, we got a pretty good listing. On the left, you have all the characters that have been in 4-inch scale. On the right, you have everything that's been in 2.5-inch scale. Not necessarily everything that's in 2.5-inch needs to be made 4-inch. For example, Charmy the Bee and the Chow are perfectly fine in scale with the 4-inch figures. Whereas, there's a few others that could probably still be made in the larger scale, but, if they already exist, I'm not really going to bring them up. We have Classic Amy and Classic Knuckles and Classic Metal Sonic, which have all been made in the 2.5-inch scale, but nothing's been done for them in the 4-inch. So Jakks will probably do them later on, considering we got Mighty Ray and Sonic already. But, we don't really need to talk about them because technically their figures already exist. So I think the easiest way to describe how this is supposed to work is to break it down. So the categories of figures are going to be main characters, side characters, villains, variant figures, characters that can stay in the 2.5-inch line, and, the classic versions of all the above if anything is relevant. So that itemization is probably going to make this easiest to break down, so we can go one at a time. So let's get into those main characters. What's left in the way of main characters? For the sake of context, what I mean by a main character is someone who was a playable character and they had an important role in at least one game of the franchise. So, for example, Sir Lamorak from Sonic and the Black Knight. That's, even though they were playable, they're not going to be they're not a main character because they were only available in multiplayer mode. That's what I'm getting at. So, by that token, who's left, really? There's not a lot, if you actually think about it. We have Blaze the Cat. She's actually, the majorest main character that's left. Blaze had a co-starring role in 2 games, and has had appearances, including some playable ones, and several more since. So, she's probably the biggest ticket. I think that she is essentially the most likely last main character to be made. The one who's going to be made next. I'm fairly certain she's probably going to be coming out in the wave after Infinite, if anything else. Aside from her, we have E102 Gamma. I know a lot of people would love to see E102 Gamma get an official toy again. He's essentially the only playable character from Sonic Adventure who hasn't had a real toy from the Jakks Pacific line. The closest that E102 Gamma has had was that little disc toy that came packaged with one of the Bendy figures. But, a proper action figure, he's really overdue. And yes, I know they made a plush of him, but, I'm counting action figures, not plushes. Then after those two, there's really Emerald and his rebuilt form Gemerald would be one of the few holdouts. Emerald from the relatively obscure Sonic Advance title Sonic Battle. I know he has a big fandom. People do love the Gizoids, or Gizoid, however you would like to pronounce that. And, I personally really love Sonic Battle. It was one of my favorite fighting games on the Game Boy Advance. And it was kind of the Super Smash Bros. Replacement for the GBA, since, there never was a GBA Smash Bros. We had to wait until the DS to get a Smash Bros. In portable mode. And even though Gemerald wasn't technically a playable character, it is still Emerald. Plus, it's a really cool design. It's basically Emerald in black and gold. So, that's a kind of color scheme that always works. And it's a color scheme that was reused with Metal Sonic 3.0 and Shard from the Archie comic. Aside from them, we have the Avatar from Sonic Forces. And he will be really complicated to do. Well, they would be complicated to do because they don't have a set look. I suppose if you're going to make a toy, you would go with that red wolf avatar that featured heavily in the advertisement. That's really the only thing I could think of to be a good compromise. Because, every other way I could think of to try and monetize this would involve an entire separate toy line that involves a lot of swappable parts and Build-A-Figures. But, there's so many hundreds of different permutations you could do for the avatar based on all the available species, all the clothing options, the colors. It would be prohibitively expensive to do an avatar line unless you're going to center an entire toy line solely around it. And I'm not sure if there's that big a market for it. Once we go through those, that's it. That's really all that's left of the major main characters. Isn't that something? Wow. The next category is the side characters. By side character, I personally mean this is someone that was a rival or otherwise played a supporting role in the game. They could have been playable, but they don't necessarily have to be. And even under this, there's still a ton of iconic characters, and this is actually a much bigger pool that Jakks Pacific can pull from. If they feel that there's interest. Because side characters are the ones where a lot of them are going to get put by the wayside because, if as important as they might be to some of us hardcore fans, to more casual people, they might easily be overlooked. Now, I'm pretty sure that Wave and Storm are a guarantee for this, because they're giving us a Jet the Hawk figure in the next wave, and if they're giving us one of the Babylon Rogues, they gotta be giving us all three of them. So that should be fine. And like I said, if they make Blaze the Cat, they might also make Marine the Raccoon. I feel like Marine would be relatively easy to remold from a Cream if they had to, because, she looks so similar. And, although I'm not sure if there will be as much interest in Marine, because, like I said, she was only in one game, and even then, she wasn't playable in it. She was only a side character. Another side character that would be way more popular, though, would probably be Tikal. I mean, if they gave us Chaos, then they could easily give us Tikal. Especially since she was technically playable. Not only is she in, the mobile game Sonic Rush, she was also playable in Sonic Adventure 2. So, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, she was an unlockable character. She has been playable, and, a lot of people do like Tikal. And with the Chaos connection, you totally have a place there. You can also start to throw in supporting characters from some of the spin-off games. Not the spin-off properties, spin-off games, Lumina and Illumina from Sonic Shuffle. Yeah, these two are characters. And Illumina is one of those characters you can put in the 2.5-inch line. And although I feel like Lumina would be big. She would be a tall character. They probably make her figure a 6-inch. like, she would have to be, like, super tall to properly do the scale. Like, she probably had to be a 12-inch figure at least, but I don't think Jakks Pacific would make that. I find that Illumina might be really, really unlikely, but Lumina is a much greater possibility. Like, she's small, she's cute, she can be put in the 2.5-inch line easily. I feel that Illumina, Lumina Flowlight is a much better option for a side character that can be put in. And we don't have to neglect the storybook series for this. Like, we can include Shara, the Genie of the Ring from Sonic and the Secret Rings, or Merlina from Sonic and the Black Knight. In fact, Merlina has an opportunity for a variant, since she's one of those characters that played a supporting role and a villain role, which is kind of rare in Sonic games. I think Shadow the Hedgehog is another case of he started out as the villain and then had a face turn. Merlina started out as an ally and then had a heel turn. So, that's a nice little parallel. Plus, I really like the design of the Dark Queen. It looks really cool. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Other side characters, okay, since I just spent some time talking about Shara and Merlina, I feel like I may have eased you into this subject. But what about the other human characters? Yeah, like, Dr. Eggman is not the only human in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, even if you just pair it back to the video games. There are plenty of human Sonic characters that you could totally make figures of. Like, if you want to go back to, like, the Sega's own consoles era, we have, like, the GUN commander, or maybe even the president. We can have Elise from Sonic 2006. Although, like, I feel like, in the Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 games and Sonic 2006, like, I feel like the human characters kind of don't match the world. Like, I can almost guarantee that a lot of people would want a Maria figure, but, like, Maria, and along with most other characters, they don't fit the aesthetic. I mean, when you look at Dr. Eggman and then look at all the other anime characters, like somebody just doesn't fit in there. And, like, no offense, guys, but Dr. Eggman was there first. So, like, I think the human characters from, like, Sonic Unleashed and after, like, that is actually a much more appealing aesthetic to put next to your Sonic figures. Like, characters like Professor Pickle actually have a much easier time blending in with the art style than Elise, who looks like she came out of a Final Fantasy game more than anything else. But, I'm not sure if they would want to go changing the aesthetic of the character to match the modern art style. Like, I would love to see Elise updated to match the art style now, so that, Sonic 2006 would have one less notch against it. But, yeah, like, I'm not sure if people would want and would recognize an action figure of Elise whose proportions didn't look like she did in her game. So, like, I would like to see at least some of the human characters get representation. Definitely Maria Robotnik, but, I don't know how likely that is. Yeah, so I guess, that is my 2 cents about these important side characters. Now, probably one of the most important categories, the villains. Like, villains almost always have the most interesting designs in video games, in any fiction. So, like, and Sonic the Hedgehog is no exception. There's a ton of really cool ones. Like the most recent one, Sage. Everybody loves Sage. She's adorable and she's cool, and she had a lot of sympathy garnered around her in the game. So I can almost guarantee that a Sage figure would do well. And there's been a resurgence of Mephiles the Dark. Like, all the hatred and vitriol centered around 2006, the one thing that everybody agrees on is that Mephiles was a cool villain. He has a great design, and, like, as a character archetype, he was just really awesome. Like, he's literally a demon who seeks nothing less than the destruction of all reality. Like, he doesn't actually want anything. He desires nothing but oblivion for all. I mean, how cool is that? And if we're gonna talk, like, and if we're talking about villains, like, we gotta bring up, Zavik, and the rest of the Deadly Six by that. I mean, Zavik was a character in Sonic Forces, the previous game. So he is and like before that, Sonic Lost World was the previous mainline Sonic game. So like love him or hate him, like Zavik and the Deadly Six are totally like characters that have been in recent memory, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the younger fans probably just accept them as part of the main canon. Like, they may be relatively recent entries for people who are my age, but you gotta remember, the Sonic the Hedgehog toy line wasn't made necessarily for people my age. It's made for kids, and I can guarantee that they would really love to see at least Zavik, and I personally would like to get all the Deadly Six. In fact, I think what are the Master Zik? He's so tiny. I think he could either be in the 2.5-inch line, or heck, maybe he can be an accessory. Like, you can have him packed in with Zor, their spy, because like he's a relatively small guy. So you put the smallest member of the Zeti with the second smallest member of the Zeti, and they can be like in a 2-pack together. Like, make a non-articulated figure of Master Zik, and he's Zor's accessory, I guess. But I digress. Oh, speaking of characters that terrify the main characters to the core, I totally missed Vanilla. Like, Vanilla could totally be an action figure, too. Like, she's the only canon parent in the Sonic the Hedgehog video game lore. And, in the comic books and other spin-off material, like, she just projects a massive authority. Like, I will never forget how Rouge the Bat just, like, Batmaned herself out of a conversation just on the outside chance that Vanilla might have been mad at her. So she's like, nope! She just noped herself away. Like, this just goes to show the true intimidation factor of Vanilla. Which is why to this day, I insist that she must secretly be a badass. I think she might be a retired adventurer archetype. Like, she probably was the Sonic before Sonic was a thing, but then when she got pregnant with Cream, she retired. Like, but everybody knows her backstory, even though the fandom hasn't been told. And that's why everybody else respects her so much. I'm actually kind of wanting a vanilla right now. Give me a vanilla before anything else. I just called it. Let's see. You know who we haven't talked about in a hot minute? Black Doom. Yeah, this guy is supposedly like the leader of the Black Arms, whose very DNA was used to create Shadow the Hedgehog. And it's not like we're completely alien to toys of this guy, because the Jazz Wars collection did give us a minifigure of Doomseye. Now, this one will be a little bit awkward since the figure doesn't have any legs, but, give us a transparent display stand and we'll be fine. So yeah, Black Doom. And, how about Neo Metal Sonic? Because, with the release of Cream the Rabbit, we will have every character that was in, Sonic Heroes, except for its primary villain, Neo Metal. And this is such a baller design. It's awesome. I made a custom of it, but, like that 3D printed head, because of how stiff the plastic is, kind of limits articulation. I would love to see if they could try and, make some way to get around that fact. Like, maybe they could specially mold the spine so that the shoulders aren't inhibited too much. But, yeah, like, Neo Metal Sonic needs to be a thing. And if we're throwing out there, other villains, like, again, we have villains from the spin-off material like the Black Knight, Eraser Jin, and of course Void from Sonic Shuffle. I was talking about Illumina previously. Don't forget Void too. So yeah, like there's a bevy of villains that we can go through, and I think once we use all those up, that's pretty much all we got. Now I guess I can throw out a thing for the small. I mean, like, in the 2.5-inch figure line, you could literally stick all of the Badniks. But if there's any characters that we have left, we could always throw in Chip from Sonic Unleashed. I don't think we could really put Dark Gaia in there because it's kind of just a giant kaiju. Maybe you could put one of the Dark Gaia monsters in as a figure. But yeah, Chip would totally fit in the 2.5-inch line. we need more Chow. Like, we got the regular Chow and we got the dark Chow, so that means we need a hero Chow. And since we're getting the cream figure, we're going to need a cheese too, but, that should be a given. And you know what? You know what the 2.5 inch would be perfect for? The Wisps! Like, when the Wisps were first introduced in Sonic Colors, I thought that it was going to be a one-off thing, but to my shock, they are actually a permanent part of the franchise now. They're just hanging around. They were featured in Sonic Forces, and in the comic book, it just seems to be the thing that they're hanging around. So, if the Wisps are a permanent part of the canon now, we may as well have toys of them. Just print some money. They wouldn't even really need much articulation aside from maybe a little waist joint for their little legs. So yeah, that's everything that could be 2.5 inch scaled. Oh, and we can't forget the Coco. These little things, they're so easy to make. They don't even really need any articulation at all. These can literally just be static minifigures. Maybe you can make them hollow with a little bell inside, so you can shake them around and make the little ringing sound like they did in the video game, and that would be all you need. This is probably one of the easiest things you could do. Give us some Coco. And then of course there's some variant characters. This is just different appearances for the same figures. So this is super obvious. The Soap Shoes Sonic, which would just be the Sonic figure with new shoes. I can't believe they haven't done this yet. You could do Darkspine Sonic. You could use the exact same molds from the Sonic figure, just give it new hands and feet, and then, cast in a different color. And then, of course, there's the Werehog and the and Excalibur Sonic. I mean, these guys, Jazzwares made both of them in their 5-inch scale, so, Jakks Pacific, you're gonna eventually one-up Jazzwares, right? So you gotta have these guys too. I would love the 4-inch scaled version of the Excalibur Sonic figure, because, I really like the build quality of the 4-inch figures. Jazzwares made a great looking Excalibur Sonic, but that figure was really fragile. Its joints are really easy to snap, and it makes you feel paranoid whenever you're messing around with that figure. So I would love, to the same build quality that the rest of the Sonic line has had, if they could make an Excalibur Sonic for Jakks Pacific. And it will be another really easy variant just to do Sonic with the with Caliburn. All you gotta do is remold his right hand to be that little metal gauntlet and give him a sword. So you could totally have Black Knight Sonic. And it's a thing where you barely have to make any new molding. I can't believe we haven't already gotten most of these variants for Sonic. Considering that Jakks Pacific has re-released the same figure 5 times already. And they don't do anything to change it. They don't give him any new shoes or a new glove or anything. It would be so easy. And the only time they repainted him was with that weird neon repaint, which, didn't look good by any metric. And of course, I speak of variants, but you could seriously make any of the storybook casts in these variants. I would love all of the characters in their knight forms. Lancelot, Galahad, Percival, Gawain, I forget which one Jets was. Lamorak? Yeah, Sir Lamorak. And you can even reach, I know, if you're doing Black Knight, you would have Amy Rose as Nimue, the Lady of the Lake, and Tails as the blacksmith. But, they made Paladin Amy in Sonic Forces Speed Battle. Give us a Paladin Amy figure. The possibility, this would probably be in the far-off future, but like I said, you're running out of main characters, and I know that you hate to do villain waves, because, there's this weird perception that kids won't buy the toys of the bad guys so much as they will of the heroes. So if you can keep cycling out new hero characters, it will give you an excuse to put out the villain characters with them. And then I gotta talk about the classic characters, because that's kind of something I was saving for all the way in the end. There actually isn't much left. Like I said, there's a huge pool of badniks that you can always use, so if nothing else, we can keep falling back on that. But there aren't that many classic characters left, because, like, if you're defining the classic era as the Genesis era before the Dreamcast, then that's actually a relatively short period. Like, it's only 7 years of the franchise's existence. But there's still a few you can make. Like, Team Hooligan. These characters appeared in Sonic Triple Trouble, Sonic, what was the fighting game? Sonic the Fighters? Oh yeah, that's literally what it was called. Sonic the Fighters for arcade. And they had a little cameo appearance in Sonic Mania, so it's not like they haven't been in anything recent. And of course, if I'm going to be mentioning Sonic Mania, I gotta bring up the hard-boiled heavies. I mean, we have a figure of the Egg Robo, so like slightly modifying it for all the hard-boiled heavies would be relatively easy. Although I think you'd have to go with a totally original new mold for Heavy King, because he looks quite different from the rest of the team. But yeah, we could totally make that work. Then there's Metal Knuckles from Sonic. I honestly don't remember the names of was it? No, it wasn't Sonic Dash. Like, the Sonic racing game on the Saturn, that game. Like, we had that. So like, Metal Knuckles, like, he's basically the last classic villainous character we have. Like the only other robot that hasn't been made. Like, there's so much focus around Metal Sonic. Oh, and I guess we can make Tails Doll here, too. Tails Doll will be another candidate for the 2.5-inch line. And, of course, the ultimate one, the thing that I think that most fans would want, the Sonic and Knuckles version of Mecha Sonic. Now, I know a lot of fans really like this design, probably because of their nostalgia for Super Mario Bros. Z, wherein this thing was like the main villain. But come on, this is an epically awesome design. It's really cool looking. And, technically speaking, there's no real official artwork of it outside of his original sprites. And that is really weird. Like, I think the closest thing we have to actual drawn artwork of this character that isn't technically fan art would be from the recent Scrapnik Island arc for the IDW comic, wherein we got to see, like, a ramshackled, rebuilt version of this figure, like, all rusted out with other Badnik parts making up his limbs. So, like, yeah, like, the Sonic and Knuckles version of Mecha Sonic is probably one of the coolest boss Metal Sonic designs after Neo Metal Sonic from Sonic Heroes. And, like, this thing, more than anything else from the classic line, needs to be a figure. I saved it for the ends because, I thought I'd go off on a strong note. But yeah, I know this video has been kind of long, but I basically just outlined every single thing that Jakks Pacific could possibly do, unless they actually want to introduce new characters. Like, if the next game introduces new characters, then you have that. But I've basically gone over everything that's left for Jakks Pacific to put into a Sonic the Hedgehog action figure. So, do with that what you will. This is Wake Angel 2001, and I'm signing off.